It's fun. I'd like to find out a little bit more about your different decisions. Which one would you say that were some of the decisions that you're most proud of?
Well, in reality, I guess I'm most proud of some of my dissenting opinions because when you write a dissent, you don't have to please anybody but yourself. So, so I remember one of the very first cases I heard on the court was a challenge to the three strikes you're out initiative. And the individual, a young black man, had been charged with robbery of an espresso stand of $300, armed with a finger in his pocket. So, and he got life without possibility of parole. And 7 members of the court affirmed that sentence, that he would go to prison for the rest of his life for stealing $300 armed with a finger in his pocket. I thought that was a cruel punishment, unconstitutional punishment, and I dissented. And right. You know, you mentioned before that I was identified as a conservative, and you know, I think that's true. Some of the most conservative people in the state were avid supporters of the three strikes you're out initiative, and of course, I alienated some of them by deciding the case the way I did. But I thought it was the right thing to do. Another case involved also a black man in Spokane. And he was pulled over for not signaling when he changed lanes and arrested. It was a false arrest because that's not something for which you can be arrested. But the police descended on him and beat the tar out of him. He couldn't be checked into jail because he was too badly beaten. They had to take him to the hospital. And then they charged him with resisting arrest. So he was convicted. That went up to the state Supreme Court. And a majority of the court overruled 500 years of precedent, which said anyone can use reasonable force to resist an unlawful arrest. Right. So I wrote the dissent saying exactly that, and my political opponents characterized me as being soft on crime, or one prosecutor said I was a criminal's best friend. And I remember that was an election year, or close to an election year, and I remember going to Spokane. Talking to the Police Officers Guild and thinking to myself, well, maybe they're going to knock my head off. But they were very nice, and I explained the case and my reasoning, and we got along great. But that's I dissented in the medical marijuana case, where this man was dying of cancer and he wanted to smoke marijuana to make him feel a little bit better. Right. And once again, that was a 8-1 case. I wrote the dissent. I said he has a right to medication. It violates his right to due process to be denied the medication of his choice. Many different cases were decided, and some of them, I suppose, that your listeners might characterize as liberal. Some of them might characterize as conservative. But for me, the focus was always the individual who was there in court and trying my very best to defend his or her rights.
Right. And I see that reason why you are proud of these positions is because they were not popular position to hold with your fellow Supreme Court justices at the time. And so in order to dissent or to write against the majority, it would take a certain amount of courage. How about the most important Supreme Court decision that you contributed to Washington State?
Was able to reverse a death penalty for someone. I can't even remember his name right now, but he would have been executed but for my opinion in that case. And we determined that he had been badly beaten as a boy by his father. His father would put him in a cage with literally wolf dogs. I'd never heard of a wolf dog before. Wow. But it was a horrible, horrible experience. And he had lesions on his brain as a result of these beatings as a child. And that was, in my view, that was a dissent. That was a factor to take into consideration when administering the death penalty. So I saved a life.
Right. That's
That's important.
exactly what you did in that case. Wow, that's somebody's life could have been destroyed because of that. So, thank you for that. What lessons did you learn from being on the bench?
Well, I think my criticism of the judiciary in general is that it is much more too favorable to the government position. I think that, our state constitution says the very purpose of our state government is to protect and maintain individual rights. And that's what I tried to do every day when I was in court. And I believe that some judges think that the government is a wonderful thing and we have to stick up for the government and give the government the benefit of the doubt. But I view civil liberties just exactly the opposite. That our civil liberties should take precedence over any governmental interest. So that's something I learned. I think that I returning to private practice, I recognize some other problems I think the judiciary has. Like there's a lot of lying, a lot of lying in the courtroom, and
Right.
very few times are people prosecuted for perjury or lawyers disciplined because they lie to the court. And it takes a strong trial court judge to do something about it. And I think that I would hope that they would do a better job at that. Uh,
Right. Well, right now, a lot of people can perjure and get away with it, and I don't see a whole lot of enforcement of the law in that area.